That's been a pretty good week for the Liberal Democrats. The party's share of the vote in the Witney by-election last week shot up to 30% from 6.7%, leaving its leader Tim Farron to claim that they are the comeback kids. But is that a fair assessment? Well, Tim Farron joins me now from his constituency in lovely Kendal. A very good morning to you, Mr. Farron. Comeback kids, you also gushed you're back in the political big time. Wouldn't the former Prime Minister and man whose seat it was say something like, calm down, dear, you only finished second?
Well, indeed, the result in Witney was a stunningly good one for us. All the same, we went up, as you say, from 6.5% to 30%, and leaping up from fourth to second, going over UKIP and Labour to give the Tories a good run for their money. It was, of course, the 10th safest Tory seat in England. I still think, however, if you'd given us another week or two, we might well have nicked it. It felt like the momentum was absolutely with us in that campaign. But if it was just in Witney that this was happening, then, calm down, dear, would probably be a fair thing to say to me. But if you look around the country, every single Thursday, there are council by-elections, and since May, the Liberal Democrats have gained 21 seats from other parties, and no other major party has gained a single seat from anybody. So it does really feel as though we've turned a corner and are coming back. I think also, given our stance, fighting for the right kind of deal for Britain if we leave the European Union, so that the Conservative government doesn't, if you like, steal the vote to the 52% and make out they somehow voted for something extreme that nearly all of them did not vote for. That kind of position, and standing up for our health service and working hard for people and being the decent opposition that I think people in this country believe that we need, those things are playing into our favour at the moment.
And does it give us a sense, Tim Farron, of how you might fight a next general election as the Liberal Democrats? You would target those areas that voted against Brexit. Is that where the future lies for the Lib Dems?
No, I think that would be far too simplistic. If you look at the gains we've made in the last 3 or 4 months, they've come pretty evenly from places that voted Leave and places that voted Remain. And in Witney itself, I of course came across many voters who voted for us because of our position on Europe and our belief that Britain should have a strong role and be outward looking and be kind of open and tolerant as a country and linked in with its neighbours. But I also came across people who voted Leave and who voted Liberal Democrat because they felt that Theresa May, David Davis and co were effectively stealing their vote and turning it into something else. People who felt that they voted to leave the EU but not to leave the single market, and were very worried about what the extreme position the Conservative government is taking will mean for their businesses and for their jobs. So our pitch is very much to people across the country, however you vote on the 23rd of June, and saying, look, we all agree surely that Britain needs a strong, decent alternative to the Conservatives. The Labour Party have shuffled off into a form of irrelevance. We will fill the space that needs to be occupied by a decent opposition.
And Mr. Farron, are you putting the party on election alert? There are suggestions that if Theresa May loses this Article 50 court case or something like that, she could go to the country sooner rather than later.
Well, we took the view at the point that Theresa May became Prime Minister that she ought to have gone for an early election, indeed an early election that probably would have taken place last week. We are therefore prepared for an early election. We think that the country should have one, specifically because of Theresa May's lack of a mandate herself personally, and the way in which the Conservative government's whole agenda has completely been turned on its head since the 23rd of June in a way that nobody voted for in May 2015. So yes, we're ready whenever it comes, whether it's be an election soon in the next 6 or 9 months, or whether it be an election in 3.5 years as scheduled in 2020. Either way, what this country really needs is a decent, strong alternative to the Conservatives. The Labour Party have chosen not to provide it by going off to the margins, and it's bad for Britain, bad for our democracy. Even if you support the Conservatives, I'm sure you agree it's bad for Britain and bad for our democracy for there not to be a strong, energetic alternative, and that's what we seek to be.
Yeah, I mean, you keep using that word democracy, don't you, Mr. Farron? But then isn't the thorn in your side this call for a second referendum on the EU? That's being decided, and a lot of Lib Dem voters voted to leave the EU, about a third of them.
Well, I mean, democracy means that you don't impose a deal that none of us know what it looks like, and as we're seeing day by day, could end up being potentially catastrophic for everybody in this country. You don't impose a deal on the British people without them having their say, and I accept the referendum result, however narrow, in June, gave the government a mandate to negotiate our exit from the European Union. It did not give them a mandate to impose upon the British people something they didn't vote for. And as I say, I came across many people in Witney who had voted Leave in June and voted Liberal Democrat last Thursday because they're very angry that Theresa May is imposing upon them an exit from the single market, which will damage their jobs, their businesses, make their local shop prices and petrol prices go up and so on. That should not be imposed on them. What started with democracy in June should not end up with a stitch-up.